and welcome to this edition of Talking Europe. The EU Commission has started legal action against 3 member states because of their refusal to take in refugees stranded, mostly in Italy and Greece. Poland, Czech Republic and Hungary say they will not be dictated to by Brussels and cite security concerns for their decision to reject asylum seekers. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who also says his decision is about preserving the EU's identity, says there's no chance of a single EU-wide migration policy. As tens of thousands of people continue to make their way into the EU in the hope of a safer and better life, we're once again going to look at what the EU could and should be doing. Is the bloc finally going to slap sanctions on member states that aren't playing by the rules? Are the thousands of people camping out across the Union getting the help they need? At what cost is it to the EU if it does, or even if it does not act? With me in studio we have from Greece Mr. Stelios Kouloukoulou. You're an MEP with the group of the European United Left here in Parliament. From Italy, across from you, we have Laura Ferrara, MEP for Europe for Freedom and Direct Democracy. That's the group you sit with in Parliament. Beside you, from Poland, Mr. Richard Czarnecki, MEP with the European Conservatives and Reformists. And last but not least, from Sweden, Mr. Krzysztof Fjellner of the European People's Party. Thank you all for being with us. Mr. Czarnecki, perhaps I start with your good self. I saw you shaking your head in my introduction, but tell me, why is Poland not taking its share of the refugees?
First of all, I would like to inform you, Madam, that Poland accepts presence more than 1 million immigrants from Ukraine during last year, after the Russian aggression against Ukraine and occupation of Crimea. And it's the fact. And also, please remember that at the end of the 90s, we invited almost 100,000 Muslim immigrants from Chechnya. After the...
But in 2015 you did sign up. It was a unanimous agreement on the relocation of a tiny percentage of the refugees arriving into here.
My government, our government, support refugees from Syria and Iraq and other places.
So, but you're
there. And
that seems to be a lot
the real financial support.
Mr. Fjellner, coming from Sweden, a country that, you know, at the start opened its doors and had a message of yes, we can. That also, though, seems to be changing more to, well, we can't really.
No, it has been and is a real challenge for Sweden. 2015, accepting 160,000 approximately refugees, and I try to do the math. My math is not brilliant, but if all of Europe would have done the same, it would be, I don't know, we talk millions of people. But now there is a struggle actually to manage that and to keep the social contract around migration accepted in the country, so that we can keep having migration. And that is a struggle for all political parties in Sweden.
Mr. Kouloukoulou, from Greece, one of the countries on the front line, how do you react to this reaction from fellow countries in the EU bloc?
We regret the position of some countries are taking, you know, and it's also amazing that there have been some agreements on the refugees which are completely violated by some member states.
Yeah, so why now we send letters?
Sanctions, no, something like that. Although if about the economic issues, when you have 0.05% of the discipline budget agreement and you are violating that, then you have ultimatums and threats and you know, punishments and so on, you know. So
why not sanctions on these countries that aren't living up to the migration rules? Why isn't the EU reacting?
Because it's not about money, it's not about banks, you know, and if it's not about money and it's not about banks, nobody cares, you know.
I wouldn't agree. Sorry.
Oh, no,
go ahead.
And I'm not talking about Sweden, of course. No, but Sweden had a fair part of the agreement. But you know what are you proposing? You know, in Greece, every day there are 100 refugees are arriving on the islands. You know, 100 refugees per day. That makes 3,000 per month for an island, which is unsustainable. What must be done with these people? Kill them? What are you proposing to do?
Okay, Evharisto, thank you for your very clear question. My answer is also very clear. We can support your country. I mean about finance support. But please respect the fact that a huge majority of citizens of my country are, very frankly speaking, I'm not a diplomat, are very skeptical to say okay for refugees from outside of Europe. And also, we should respect the voice of people.
I'm really sorry, but I think that this is not fair. I mean, it's not something against you or against, in a specific, your country. But if all the citizens of all the countries say, yes, we can help the refugees, but we don't want them here in our country. It's not fair because we have the Geneva Convention that say we have to help people that are fleeing from wars and from persecutions. So the problem in the European Union is not a lack of solutions; it's a lack of will. It's a lack of will because we have seen with the recent relocation system that the burden of receiving migrants is just on the hands of
this letter sent from the Commission, is that going to change anything?
Yes, the burdens are on 7 or 8 member states of the European Union, and the other 20 are without any kind of responsibility. And this is not fair. The sanctions could be good, but for me, just when we are talking about sanctions, this is the failure of the European project. This is the failure of the European project because the Article 80 of the treaty says that in the management of migratory fluxes, European Union have to share the responsibilities, have to cooperate, and we are looking at the situation, and we can see that, unfortunately, there is no cooperation and there is no solidarity.
But
right to replay.
I think one has to take one step back. One can, of course, have a discussion about what should European migration policy be in the long run and how many should we receive, how many shouldn't we receive, should we help there or here. But now we have an issue about 160,000 that we have agreed upon to share the burden with. That's actually already here. And I think it's a pretty natural thing. If you sit around the table, agree to the fact that we're going to relocate these people, and you sign up to that, you should follow the rules. I think the European Union is doing things. Maybe one can say too little, too slow, but these letters is actually the normal routine of countries that doesn't play by the rules. And Poland isn't playing by the rules, so Poland should take the beating for it.
Mr. Czarnecki.
Right to replay. First of all, don't say it's unfair, it's not true, because I can repeat, maybe this time very slowly, that we accept my country more than 1 million people from Ukraine and include 400,000 of refugees because Ukrainian citizens are from country which is the subject of aggression, of Russian aggression.
Today's crisis.
Okay, maybe, Madam, you can say that for you and for my colleagues are more important refugees from Syria than refugees from Ukraine.
There was a decision made.
Okay, how many refugees from Ukraine are in Ukraine? From Ukraine to Italy?
I can say that in Italy last year there were 180,000 refugees that are in Italy, and just a little bit more than 5,000 were relocated in the other countries. And this is and there were more refugees that returned in Italy.
I'd like to look at that. The numbers to Italy are going up this year. Are they not? Things are getting...
Yes.
But the problem is not a matter of numbers; it's a matter of principles. You know, about the respect of the agreement, you know,
very important.
I don't want now to accuse Poland. I love Poland. I admire the struggle of the Polish people for independence. You know,
we remember about it. Thank you.
And but you know, now there is a violation of an agreement.
Exactly.
It does not concern only Poland about Ukraine,
which is also worrying for the EU's future.
It concerns also Slovakia. It concerns also Hungary, which has not Chechen refugees, neither Chechen nor Ukrainians. You know,
12, I think.
It's a matter of principles because the politicians are playing with the nationalistic feelings.
Indeed, when you hear that, when you hear Hungarian Prime Minister, respond to that start of legal action, saying, "Well, there won't be an EU-wide solution to the asylum process," because he's worried about national identity, the EU identity.
But that's honestly just stupid in two accounts. First of all, 1968, there was a lot of people from Hungary that fled to Sweden. In Sweden, people saw they were Catholics. And they said, oh, can we really accept Catholics? But Sweden said, sure, that's not a problem. But now, to say that now it's not a question about Catholics, now it's a question about Muslims then. So I think the whole concept that
I guess that's the idea that the EU is...
a few hundreds or thousands would actually threaten the national identity of Europe. And secondly, if you wouldn't say that you should have a European asylum common system, how could you preserve free movement of people? You know, I do trade policy. We have free movement of goods in Europe. Imagine to do that without accepting a common customs union and common customs. It's just not okay.
Another issue I want to look at, however, is the other solution the EU has come up with, which is to make a deal with Turkey, now looking at making a deal with a number of African countries, as that's where the migrants to the EU or to Italy are coming from the minute. And some of them, at least, are migrants, economic migrants. But, you know, in Greece, it was the refugees. The numbers have gone down since that Turkey-EU deal. Do you think it was part of the solution? Is that the way to go? Would you like to see the same thing put in place again with African nations?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think the best way to do that is just to contain refugees and immigration. Is not possible to do that, you know, because refugees and immigrants are like water. They always find a solution to go because they need to go. So we need general agreements on the world scale to reduce poverty and to end with the wars. You know, I mean, let me tell you something. Poland was part of this alliance of benevolent under President Bush to invade Iraq, right, in 2003. And there were other countries also involved. And this, the invasion of Iraq created Islamic State. And now these refugees are fleeing their country because of the Islamic State. Why? Great Britain, Poland, and the other countries, they participated. They don't accept the historical responsibility for the fact that they created Islamic State. I don't think this is fair. You know?
First of all, we strongly support the European Union agreement with Turkey. More than 1 year ago, I think we need this agreement.
You're not worried about the reports of human rights abuses in Turkey?
And finally, Ankara and Brussels, Turkey and EU together stop the possibility of invasion. And secondly, I think your vision of modern history of Middle East and Europe is not so sophisticated, diplomatic language, maybe. And I cannot say that it was the maybe mistake of the leftist government in Poland, is the responsibility of former government in Poland. But generally, I think now we should respect the fact that EU and NATO practically is in the war against Islamic State.
Mr. Czarnecki, just briefly, can I ask you, do you not think the EU as a whole is strong enough to take, we're 500 million people, do you not think we're strong enough to take refugees fleeing war? We
Europeans must support refugees, but in our opinion, first of all, we should support in refugee camps outside of Europe.
Yeah, for us, it's very strange to think to create other kind of agreement like the EU-Turkey deal, because this is not a solution. I mean, it's an agreement according to yes. We give to you money and you keep migrants, you keep refugees. So the goal is that refugees don't have to arrive in Europe. And this is not a solution because we have seen that maybe in Greece, now after the EU-Turkey deal, refugees are less than before. But now in Italy are going up
and also
up.
in the Greek camps, Mr. Kaloglou, there's massive abuse and security questions in the camps in Greece. That's another issue we have in Europe. Why aren't we at least making those that are in our camps here safe?
You know, it's a miracle that the extreme right and the neo-Nazis are not
But there's horrific stories coming out of the
camps.
camps.
Are not enforced by all this situation, you know. And still people in Greece, though affected by the crisis, they still are welcoming the refugees. But this is not going to...
But some of the camps,
you know,
some of the camps on some of the islands, there's abuse, there's horrific violence going on, there's rapes, why isn't the EU at least making them secure in these camps?
Because, you know, every day, as I told you, the problem is happening on the islands next to Turkey. And every day, in every island, more people are coming. And this makes unsustainable the situation. And all the promises have been made by the European Union about the personnel and the logistics are not yet given.
It was solution for short term, maybe, but it was solution.
But I think that one has to remember, you know, if you put thousands of people that are desperate in a camp for a while with a bleak outlook for the future, you will have problems. And I think one has to acknowledge, we can discuss whether Turkey agreement is a solution or not. I honestly think there hardly is a solution. It's just a question of handling it as good as we can. The solution is, of course, end of war and end of poverty, which is a tragic.
To look at the root causes.
Yes, of course, but that is a long term. But up until then, we have to deal with it.
Because this is a solution for the immediate time, but not for the long term.
Thank you so much to all my guests for your time and insights. Thanks also, of course, to you at home for having watched. That brings us to the end of this half of Talking Europe. But join us again after the news when we will be continuing to look a bit at that migration question and also at those Brexit negotiations, which finally, officially began this week. See you then.